So today's video is going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be about the usual maximizing wallet strategy, tips on earning points, or even how to redeem rewards. I want to talk today about the current state of airport lounges. As you can see from the title of today's video, I've had some personally negative experiences that is starting to change my mind about how I value credit cards with airport lounge access. There are fantastic airport lounges out there, and I'll talk specifically about how to target those with your credit card selections. However, there is overwhelming evidence and a growing frustration from more than just me that airport lounges are not what they used to be. So today I'll answer what's actually gone wrong, my personal experiences lately with airport lounges, and also whether they're still actually worth it. Let's dive on in. When you get a credit card with airport lounge access, it's super exciting, and I know I'm not the only one who really makes arrangements specifically to test out different lounges. I'm not afraid to admit that I've showed up early for airports to stop by a lounge for a few minutes to an hour, to even rearranging my itinerary on my flight. If I've got two pretty comparable routes, I will go and seek out the best lounge experience in my layover and kind of make that a part of my own trip. So when I say things have changed, keep in mind I'm coming at it from a really positive idea as to what airport lounge access really should be. I'm seeing three massive problems right now, and the first is overcrowding. This is the biggest issue hands down. There was a point in time when airport lounges were truly exclusive places, kind of isolated spots above the chaos and noise of an airport, where it actually made the airport experience part of your trip really a cool part along the way. Now, good luck getting in or even finding a seat. The first sign that you're gonna get hit with overcrowding in your own lounge experience is when you walk up to an airport lounge and you see people clustering or a line out the door. That is hands down never a good sign and is almost a sign to walk away and find something else to do with your time. The only lounge network that I've seen that has started to figure this out is the Capital One Lounge Network. Now, unfortunately, that's really small, but if you just flip on the Capital One app, you can actually scroll and select your lounge and you'll see two things: a wait time and a place to check in ahead. And I love to do this if I touch down before my layover, sign in and get myself on the wait list before showing up at the door. Now, if you're lucky enough to get yourself inside, most lounges are set up with a mix of tables and individual chairs. And as those start to fill up really quickly, everybody's sort of eyeing each other and scanning around the room to see what's gonna fill up next and who's gonna be the first to grab the next open seat. It's all a little uncomfortable and awkward, especially if you're just looking for a place to sit down and eat or get some work done on your laptop. Now, if overcrowding wasn't bad enough, the next stage of disappointments is the state of the inside of most of these lounges. Specifically, I want to talk about Priority Pass lounges in the United States. It's the biggest lounge network that a lot of credit cards give you general, widespread access to, so unfortunately, they're the target of a ton of foot traffic. I want to highlight two that have come across my radar recently. First, the Club in Baltimore. Now, the Club in Baltimore is a really good reflection for a lot of the state of Priority Pass lounges here in the US. I love this video on your screen right now that my buddy Rob captured from inside of the Club in Baltimore because of how realistic it actually is for a lot of airport lounge experiences. If you look at that video, it resembles more closely a crowded high school cafeteria than an exclusive lounge experience. So much of what you think you're getting looks more like this Priority Pass lounge in San Francisco. However, while that shows that there are nice Priority Pass lounges in the network, more of the ones that you'll probably step into are a lot like Baltimore and less like San Francisco's. Another one that I've experienced myself that I know has probably tripped up some of you out there is also the Club in ATL. This is such a busy airport that I'm sure you've experienced something very similar to myself. But when I stopped in last, it was during breakfast hours. And the video footage I have is actually what I got for breakfast: peach jelly beans and espresso. And the reason being was that the breakfast spread that they had out at the time was really, really hard to look at. It almost looked inedible. It's experiences like this that take away from the reality compared to the expectations that you probably had in your head going in. The last big negative that I'm running into a lot really centers around convenience. First of all, lounge locations can be really hit and miss. I can't count the number of times that I have a natural layover in my itinerary, and when I arrive to the airport and really map the time it would take to get to a lounge, it's just not worth it, or it's practically impossible to make it there to hit a grab and go before my next flight takes off. You really have to value this appropriately when thinking about a credit card to get lounge access. Even if you may technically have access at airports you go through a lot, does the nature of your trip allow you to use these? And a lot of times, because of the location of some of these lounges, the answer is unfortunately no. The second convenience-related aspect to consider is your expectations of the value of the food and drinks you're getting. I don't have this perspective when I travel myself because I'm so value and budget oriented that I really take any free food as just a net gain. However, my wife, who has a completely different perspective than I do, that I think represents a lot of travelers out there, sees lounge food as not being equivalent in a one-to-one comparison as to something you may get at an airport restaurant. Her opinion, which is really valid as well, is that a lounge meal does not equal the value you would get if you sat down and actually paid for a meal at an airport restaurant. At an airport restaurant, you'll actually get a full menu and a full meal to order from, and that may cost you $20 or $25. What you're getting at most airport lounges, even on the good side, is mostly appetizers and little snacks. This is definitely not apples to apples, and you can't necessarily say that a lounge pass will completely replace what you would have spent at a restaurant because you're just not getting the same thing. Now, these are real issues, but why is this happening, and what can you do to avoid it in your own credit card setup? Now, the reason we're seeing things the way they are today is that more people are considering lounge access than ever before. We are almost back at all-time highs, and last year, 850 million people traveled through US airports alone. When you think of all the lounges out there, that space fills up really quickly when you think of the insane number of people going through airports who may consider wanting to stop by a lounge. The second is that credit cards have gone all in on lounge access as a perk, and most of this is through general priority pass access, giving the same group of people access to the same network of lounges. Finally, everybody seems to be pushing lounge access as a critical travel credit card benefit. And I know travel blogs and YouTubers like myself are often guilty of pushing this narrative as well. I fully admit that I can share in the blame of some of this as well, because when I recount a trip or talk about a potential experience I want, I tend to think more fondly about the good experiences I've had and sort of forget or bypass the bad ones in my mind that are more of a realistic representation of both sides of what you could get. As a result, there are far too many people who want and have airport lounge access and far too few spaces to hold all of that demand. So at the end of the day, is this all worth it? And how should you value lounge access as part of a potential credit card decision? I would say despite the overall trending downward arrow as it relates to airport lounges, they're still worth it if you are able to target the right experience for yourself. Here are a few lounges that I still think hold their value. As long as you're visiting these more frequently than not, you'll probably have more of a positive experience and outlook on airport lounges. The 3 to 4 Capital One lounges that exist are often top-notch. They're the best designed spaces and have about 10 to 12,000 square feet. So unless crowds are crazy, you do have a decent chance of getting inside. Centurion lounges as well are often fairly high quality and do hold their value for what you're paying. I also like the strategy of getting very targeted with your lounge access and going specifically by an airline that you often travel. That could be Delta Sky Club, American Airlines Admirals Club, or the United Club lounges. Oftentimes those lounges provide a high quality experience while also solving the location problem that a lot of people face if they target more general lounges. Now, to get inside these lounges, there are a few different credit card options you could actually target. I would say the only flexible currency card that's going to give you broad, wide-based, high-quality lounge access is going to be the American Express Platinum Card. At $695, that will drive a lot of people far away from that annual fee, and that's completely understandable. Targeting an airline card if you fly an airline frequently is usually a fair strategy as well. The Delta Reserve card at $650 will give you access to Delta Sky Club. The recently revamped United Club card will give you access to United Club lounges, as well as the Citi and American Advantage World Elite MasterCard, which does have a premium $595 price tag, but gets you into American Airlines lounges are usually good bets for your money. In my opinion, where overall value starts to deteriorate, and like I said, you get what you pay for, are some of the cheaper general travel credit cards. The Capital One Venture X is going to give you a lot of hit and miss lounges because a lot of your lounge access is going to be through Priority Pass. Remember, there's only 3 to 4 Capital One lounges, and if you're not traveling in those select cities, well, you'll miss out on the cream of the crop. The US Bank Altitude Connect often attracts people with its 4 free visits to Priority Pass lounges. That's a $0 annual fee card, but again, you saw some of my examples of Priority Pass lounges and what type of experience that may get you. I also put the Chase Sapphire Reserve into more of this lower value lounge access category as well, because even though it's got a premium annual fee, there are really not a ton of Chase lounges out there, and it's more comparable to getting Priority Pass access with a few key Chase spots that you have to cross your fingers that you may get access to if you're very lucky and happen to go through one of those select cities. So at the end of the day, are airport lounges worth it? I still think they are, but a little less than before. For most people who are infrequent to moderate travelers, I would not encourage you to get a credit card that gives you lounge access just for the sole purpose of getting access to these once exclusive spaces. I think at the end of the day, after a few years of using a card for just that reason, you'll actually probably be disappointed and not feel like you're getting a good return on the annual fee that you're going to have to pay to access those spaces. Of course, this changes if you're a frequent traveler and you always have to be visiting airports and are always laying over, or if you're willing to value lounge access as part of a complementing set of benefits that are good reasons to get a card for a broad-based value package overall. Now, I'm interested to hear how your current lounge experience has been in 2025. And if you'd like to end the video on a slightly higher note, go watch my tour of the Dallas-Fort Worth Capital One Lounge. It's one of the best in the US, and that video will show you what a premium lounge experience looks like. Thanks so much for watching.